hit our play buttons at the same time on the count of 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, this opening's hilarious. I just remembered what it was.
Totally forgot to hit the timer in the Remarcus app, so we're about maybe 10 seconds behind in the Remarcus app, just as an FYI.
I didn't notice that.
Sorry about that, folks.
It's working though.
Yeah, no, I just have to, just more things that I have to remember.
It is the right time zone though, John, so that does work.
Woot, woot.
This is one of my favorite before the song versions.
I love that.
By the way, folks out there
So
on
funny.
folks that are out there on the bean bags, that's what we call the audience, bean bags. I forgot to mention that after the episode is over, we will be sticking around for about 45 minutes to just chat about what we saw.
Petition. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say petition to call them the beanbag bad boys.
The bean bag boys.
The beanbag boys. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, I have to I still have not actually written anything for that whole opening speech. I know it sounds super rehearsed, but I kind of change it up every night, but I always leave something out that I realize oh, forgot to put that in.
I'm at the point where I can almost mouth, lip read everything you say.
I was going to say,
Something
when you
changes.
go to church as a little kid, you recite what the priest says.
Yep. True. I did just look at your tweet, Tasha. I love that.
Rose.
Not what I would have expected.
I love
that one.
I love snails.
Just me, or does the denim look different?
When did Lorelai do the hair? The permy hair. Did that happen between two episodes?
It kind of changes a lot.
Yeah, so does Rory.
Sometimes she gets a perm. She goes to the hairdresser.
Or her hair's naturally curly.
Yeah, they both kind of tend to like intermittently go from straight to curly.
Season 3 Rory's hair. I'm sorry.
I love season 3 Rory hair.
Me too. I do too.
Really though?
Yeah. Let me just say that Pancreas is so nasty.
That could also be sinus.
I love Paris. I think she's awesome. Sorry, random comment. I wanted to be Paris in high school, not Rory.
I still want to be Paris.
I was a mixture between Madeline and Louise.
What happened to the teacher who used to be in the room controlling things?
She got scared and ran away. I was gonna say Paris probably kicked her out.
She's probably like hiding in a closet somewhere.
Rocking herself.
Paris challenges you. Everybody needs a Paris in their life.
Do you think she's a coffee addict like Lorelai and Rory?
Yep. Interesting. I didn't think about that.
I've seen this so many times and I never made that connection.
How small those cups are, though, like that's like is like one of my cups.
I also like this sort of casual look that Richard has now that he's not working anymore. His hair is a little bit more rustled, wearing sweaters.
Dear God, this would drive me nuts. Gosh, Emily, just say, don't come with me. Wait, what? She just needs to say, I don't want you to come with me. Well, she's trying to be nice. Or hint,
I need some time alone.
Exactly, without saying it.
I would just be like, go away.
I would have gotten a hint by now.
He should go to Stars Hollow.
Someone read the about section.
Well, it's just the episode title, really.
Well, let's just say my tweet didn't tip it off.
That's what I meant.
Gosh, I always remember seeing on on the lot, like in the little Stars Hollow set, I always walked past that video store from the outside and always just wondered about the scenes that might take place in there.
We had a video place until last year in our town.
Is this the only episode we actually see inside of it? I can't remember it any other time.
Yeah, I'm not
Red
sure.
vines.
Twizzlers are better. Another cart job.
Anybody notice a fiddle faddle in the background?
I was gonna say, anybody notice how the poster for Blow has the face that's covered? The actor's face is covered?
Yes. And there's Dentine Ice
I
gum
didn't notice
on
that.
the counter.
I was looking up the movies and they all seem to be Warner Brothers movies as well.
Yeah, that poster that was behind Kirk, you see a tiny Warner Brothers logo in the corner.
Love that one.
Oh gosh, this is delightful.
Yeah, seeing her go hysterical is one of my favorite things.
Lorelai is not seriously wanting her to skip school for that, is she? No.
Seriously, no, she's just being 5.
Only somebody like Richard would show up at like 7:30 in the morning for a full day.
I was just thinking that it has to be at least 7, if not earlier.
Might be like 6:30 or something.
So
Hey, I call Lorelai 5, but if I had to spend the whole day with my mother, I'd act exactly like she.
I feel so bad for Richard. He just wants to be involved.
Man, I did not realize how much Pop-Tart consumption goes on in this show.
I don't know how they're not 300 pounds. people still read the paper?
Every day.
Yeah, we do. Just making sure.
I used to do that with my father. We used to share the newspaper.
I love this because you're kind of re-experiencing Stars Hollow through his eyes.
Purple is so disgusting.
I think of this every time I eat half a grapefruit.
I hate grapefruit so much.
Oh, I love grapefruit.
Okay, see,
I
not
love
that bad,
grapefruit.
but I have acid reflux, and that kills it. Only for Lorelai.
I have a question. Is Dozy always next door to Luke's?
Yes.
Next door meaning like
Yeah, it's
there's like a
two
store in
ways
between.
over.
It's just across the street.
Okay.
When somebody asked, I have a question, I totally paused my TV show as if I was watching it with somebody in the room. I mute mine. I'm so used to just pausing it whenever I have to watch something on my phone with sound.
Better tomato.
I mean, she's not wrong.
Jackson would appreciate that. I love that. That's
Without
hilarious.
subtitles, I would not know what he's saying.
I'm disappointed we never get to see the giant slinky.
Right. Even a year in the.
Nice stop there.
How long did they really think he could just wander in Stars Hollow?
Oh, what was this?
Look at the like melted snow, like the little bits of snow all around. Just that detail is so great. Except that the grass is way too green.
I love Luke's reaction here.
This whole part is my favorite part. She thinks it's like a pizza gate. My favorite part's coming up.
Oh.
See, I was expecting you to post a GIF of this scene. Tasha.
Well, I didn't want to make it seem like it was a Jess episode. I'm saving that for tomorrow.
I swear to you, no one gets to tell before you do.
See Michelle in the background. Richard is right.
I agree.
Oh,
I don't.
I don't.
I did, so I won.
In 2021, in the workplace, Richard would be right. Mm.
So I do HR. Richard's definitely right.
Yes and no.
This is a good topic for a postco.
Oh yeah. I laugh every time in the show.
This episode is fantastic, by the way.
Sorry.
Oh, it gets better.
I know. It's just, I was so sure.
Careful with audio, the television volume.
Like more than half of the movies are gone.
All this because of Showgirls.
And two little boys that probably didn't even know what they were looking at.
Damn it, Jesse Spano.
Where's the Oxford English Dictionary?
Probably underneath the bed.
That can't be left for anyone to just play with it.
Death rockers. Death rockers.
I'm going to make a theory about the Yale Harvard thing.
Make it.
I'll do it at post show.
This is so obnoxious. Oh.
Do you think he knew the Reese Witherspoon reference?
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Hence my tweet. You're not her dad, Richard. Ugh.
But way to stand up for yourself, Dean.
Ooh, yeah. Oh my God, this is so awesome.
Oh, is this the first time we see her, actually?
Yeah,
I know you
Gypsy.
Is Gypsy her name, or is she a gypsy? Or
No, her
Gypsy's
name.
her
That's
name.
her name.
her name is Gypsy.
her name.
Man, they are both tall. They are both tall men.
They're very tall.
because
Listen,
Jared is huge.
6'4".
That's what I'm thinking.
She's young.
my husband's 6'8". So my
Oh.
That doesn't do much though.
She's so little next to them.
I love that line. I miss my home.
Yeah, Gypsy is amazing.
And she fits so well, even though it's only her first episode.
This was my gif in my tweet. Oh my gosh, Richard. It took me so long to figure out that reference. I'd feel bad for him if this whole before situation was different. Nah, he's been very annoying and rude this episode.
I disagree. I still feel bad for him.
I do too, but I feel like that was a little manipulative there at the end. I mean, like that was
Very
designed.
manipulative.
That was designed for us to all feel bad for him, as it was designed for Lorelai to feel bad.
This is a cute scene.
Who is this guy?
Are you serious?
No. Being supposed to
Oh boy.
That is pretty funny though.
It's so dang cute.
Her hair looks fantastic.
Well done, John. Batsy's trained you well.
My germaphobe freakingness. Ugh. She just grabbed the ice with her hands. How would one organize stamps?
Ugh.
Collectors have their ways.
This really makes me feel bad for him.
It's so hard to feel bad for him though after that whole like. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. He just like manipulated Lorelai into feeling bad after he crossed the line in her house. And
He kind of like brought it upon himself, to be honest.
He really did.
Yeah.
It's her
He-
child.
Like, especially like with Lorelai and her work, it's like, I mean, I know we'll definitely talk about this, but like, if it works and nothing's wrong, nothing's happened, then why fix it? That's my opinion.
I think it was inappropriate for him to speak to her like that in front of her colleague or the person she supervises, in this case,
Yeah.
Michelle. But I
Although it
also
was
think
funny,
that he had, but I think that he was right. And part of the thing about, you know, harassment or comments in the workplace is that a lot of people who say them don't think that it means anything, but for the person who's not in the position of power, like maybe it does mean something, or it makes
Oh no,
them
don't,
uncomfortable.
definitely. Oh no,
Yeah,
totally.
so-
I totally
and I
understand
know-
that.
Yeah, and I know like Lorelai does not mean it at all, but like there are times in the series like where they joke about workplace harassment, and it's clear that they don't really like engage with any sort of meaningful protocol on it, and I think about that sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like
Are we gonna
definitely
open up the couch?
Yeah, hold on
Yeah.
one second, folks. Let's open up the couch, get some other folks into this this conversation about harassment in the workplace.
That's what we're starting off with.
That Lorelai's or that I don't know, the way he handled that was not. I mean, in like there is that her workplace. I understand if he feels very strongly about that, but he needs to pull her to the side, reprimand her in front of her own employees and all of that. I mean, that was bizarre.
Although Michelle's reaction was so funny though.
I agree about the workplace thing, and I don't agree with necessarily the way he approached it, but I'm going to be devil's advocate about the car. I know it was her house. I know that she is the mama, but I know my dad would be like, hey man, I want to check out that car because I don't know crap about cars. And maybe I'm just a little more not spirited where I would have let him do it. I don't know. I thought that Dean was a little disrespectful.
I think maybe he should have told Lorelai how he felt about it and let her handle it herself.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
He made it exactly. And he
That's
made
what
it
I
like
meant.
it was his choice too. He made it
I
like
mean,
he was
yeah, the way he approached her, I agree with that. But I'm saying, you know, it's not just about who's the boss, but I also think respecting someone's expertise is kind of important.
I also
Yeah.
feel like along with that, like I totally get that because like I mean, I even with what Dean said like about the car and stuff like that, I honestly still feel like it is like Lorelai's decision, because like anything going on in her house is her decision. People can offer like opinions, but like kind of like overriding like what she said, kind of like what she said was like, you don't have to think it looks safe. I have to think it looks safe, and like, and that's the last time you come in here and overrule my word type thing. And yeah, so I think like Lorelai had every right to like kind of react the way that she did.
He just said no right away and didn't try to discuss it or say he might know better. He just said, nope, sorry, you can't accept it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Give reasons and talk about it.
You know, that is,
Yeah.
and I agree, is not, that was too forceful, and he needed to approach it differently, but I still think, you know.
Richard was
he
kind of
would approach it
disrespectful to
correctly.
Dean.
I'm with you on this, Wendy. Wendy Peach. Is there two people on your profile?
Oh, Wendy is just fine. I have a nickname on Twitter, and so I didn't want the confusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you on this. I think that, you know, ultimately, I think that the content, you know, the content of his arguments are sound. My biggest problem is just how he approached it in all of those scenes. Like, he could have pulled her to the side and said, I feel very strongly about this, you know. And I do think that to a degree he does have a bit of authority. I mean, he is her.
How?
What's up?
He's a male figure, and I mean, I know that sounds, I'm sorry, that sounds horribly sexist, but I mean, the fact that there's no father in her life, and I'm pretty sure that Lorelai doesn't know anything about cars, but yes, John, he totally went about it the wrong way.
Well,
you know, but that's Richard.
A female mechanic.
No, I don't think that it's the gender there. I think if Emily had been there and I think it's just simply the experience. I think that he has more experience than Lorelai. And I think that experience is valuable. This episode is really, for me, it's all about how all the experience in the world doesn't at that age doesn't seem to matter. Society deems you obsolete regardless of what you have to offer, right? Like, that's basically what was happening there, right? Like, he was like, I have so much to offer here. I know so many things. I've been around. I've experienced all this, and yet I'm being told, sit down, you're not valuable anymore. And I think that was really what was happening there for him.
Right, that he doesn't have a right to any sort of opinion.
Yeah, and I do think that experience is valuable, and I do think that experience does, you know, maybe not entitle you to the right, but I mean, it is her father. I think, you know, he does deserve some respect for his experience. The only thing is just he did it the wrong way. He just interjected himself into every situation. He did it in front of people in a manner that would, of course, make people, confrontational and whatnot. And I think he could have handled every one of those situations, in a more respectful manner to the people that were there. And I wouldn't have had a problem with him with any of the things that he had to say.
Right, I agree.
Nice. Hey, I just want to say hi and hello, all the new faces. And Jasmine was flashing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
I was also
make that clear for those of you who are new. Now these couches are getting quite. It's going to be probably important for us to.
Ron, I'm sorry, you're cutting out for me. Am I the only one?
Oh, really?
I was about to say the same
Out
thing.
for me.
Yeah, it's happening to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me see if.
Yeah, Tasha, I know you were flashing, but Jasmine was flashing quite a while ago. So I just wanted to point out because she's kind of low down on the list.
No, I saw.
How is my audio now? Is it okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
Cool. So
Do your speech.
just to let folks know who are new here, we have this way of sort of politely raising our hand to let folks know that we're, you know, in the wings, that we kind of would like to speak when the next opening is comes up, and we do that by just simply flashing our mic like the way that Tasha is doing right now, just slowly tapping the mute button, not too fast, because that can signal that you're clapping for somebody. But if you just do it, you know, just at a moderate pace, we'll be, you know, there are several of us in the room that are sort of scanning to see who's interested in chiming in.
the thing I was gonna mention is that, so in this show, right, the premise is that Lorelai left home at 16 with Rory. And one of the things that's always come up for me while I've watched the show through the seasons, up until now, is what we're discussing, right? Is like, why did Lorelai leave, right? Because when you look at Emily and Richard's relationship to Rory, one would think, well, they were actually just good parents, and it becomes very easy to vilify Lorelai and say, like, well, she was just too unruly of a child or too much of a rebel. But I think what's interesting is the subtle ways in which this show shows us how oppressive is a huge word here to use, but the way in which her parents treat her, right? Like some of the things that we were saying earlier about Richard being an authority on cars, or because he's the elder of the group, he deserves more respect. Well, Lorelai is the executive manager of the inn. She certainly knows what she's doing, and it may not be HR appropriate, but at least in this situation, she's the one who knows what's best, right? So I just wanted to point out that, like, I think there may be a reason why Richard's reaction or the way he plays these actions in all these scenarios is so severe, because it shows you what it must have been like for Lorelai to grow up as a kid in the household.
Nice. I really like that. Well done.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whole lot of sense.
I think we have a new person on the couch today. Elle, I don't think I've seen her up on the couch. She's been on the couch before. Has she?
No,
Yeah.
first time.
Because I've seen her in the audience before.
I've seen,
Yeah,
yeah, Ellie,
this is the first
you've
time
been
I
in the
got
audience a lot. Yeah, I'm really happy to have you on the couch with us.
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't we any new folks that are on the couch with us today, if you wouldn't mind flashing your mics if this is your first time.
Just
Well,
one.
Oh, so we have Loretta as well,
Oh, do we?
flashing at the bottom, I believe. Well, welcome, Loretta.
Nice. This is cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else have some thoughts? Tasha, you're flashing?
Yes, please. So kind of like what Jazz was saying, like, obviously, considering like this is the year of 2021 and things are like a lot more stricter and certain things wouldn't fly and things like that. And also 2002, season 2 we're on right now. So times were obviously different, but the premise is still the same. Because like harassment in the workplace or anything like that was still a common thing back then. It's just there was no social media to project that. And kind of like what she was saying, like it may not have been HR appropriate, but Lorelai has known Manny for 10 years and knows how to get it to get the linen before someone else did. And she did what she had to get it. And I probably may not have like acted that way, but if someone, I don't know, but like, I think Richard's always been this person where he's a great guy and like he means well, and I like a lot of the things that he has done, especially over the series. But I feel like not only the approach, but like, what he has said throughout the episode has like, this has never been like my favorite episode for Richard, even though this is the whole premise of the episode, because like one with the whole thing in Luke's where like when he's like, we may not always like certain things, but they far outweigh the temporary discomforts. It's like so like some people don't like certain things. We shouldn't have to be like pressured or forced to do it just because they don't like it. Like I myself wouldn't eat a grapefruit, not just because I don't really like it, but also I have acid reflux, so that would wreak havoc with me. And then also with the cars, like yes, he has experience with cars and stuff like that, but it's Lorelai's house and she has full authority to say or deem anything like safe or unsafe, kind of like the Patricia Krenwinkel reference that she made, which is a Charles Manson reference. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To make it sure. And I was totally in agreement with her because it's like, who do you, like, just because you're my father doesn't mean you have any say in what goes on in my house. You can give your opinion, but like doesn't mean that you can overrule it. And so I don't know. I understand that Richard is in a difficult situation, but it's like, don't use that. And Johnny kind of touched on this. You don't have to like kind of use that as like a card of like manipulation just to get your way and things like that. And I absolutely hate it when people try to use like a sympathy card or any card like that just to make it seem like what you're saying is right. So that's my opinion.
He was laying it on thick there at the
Oh
end.
yeah, flashback to my childhood, definitely.
Yeah, he was laying it on because he said to Lorelai, "Oh, you've never invited me once," but has he ever invited himself? I think it goes both ways, and so I think he went golfing with Rory once. Have they done that again? So I think I understand what you're saying as far as you know, he has experience, and I think that's great. But as much as you, I think he should. Either she's going to ask him for his opinion, or he goes about it a different way, because they don't have that relationship where she says, "Well, Dad, what do you think about the car?" Or, "Hey, Lorelai, this is what I think," because they don't have that familiarity with each other. They don't have that comfort with each other where you would ask someone their experience and you're willing to receive it and you're willing to give it. And I just think when he said, "Well, have you ever invited me?" And I think, well, no, it goes both ways.
Elle, were you
Definitely slapping.
It always bothers me that he says she's never once invited him to her house, even though in season 1 they invited him there for Rory's birthday party and he came.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I think he's thinking more like what they did today. You know,
Yeah.
he never
They went out of
and
obligation
just like
the last
come
time.
hang out, like a
Still
birthday
just the way
party.
that it was said.
Yeah, but would he have really come and done that? I mean, he had a completely different life.
Right. So when you complain you're obsolete now, then like, what have you built your life? You built it around this business. You basically, you know, you faded and they went on to the next younger person. And so I think it's the whole obsolete thing too that's bothered me, because if you haven't made your family a priority and they all have their routines and they're all living their lives, then you really can't complain that much.
And he brought it upon himself.
No,
too.
that's true. That's very true. That's a good point.
I saw Elle flashing earlier. I don't know. if
Yeah,
you
Elle
had
was
something to
flashing
say.
earlier.
Yeah, some of the things I wanted to say were already touched on, but really, like, okay, I'm very team Richard, I'll just say that, but I feel like Richard really still views Lorelai as being 16. So that's where so much of that's coming from. And like his world, his business world would have been so completely different than what he would have seen Lorelai do, like in terms of how she speaks and how she dresses, how she conducts herself. It's totally different. So I think he was really more like taken aback by that. And like his style is not going to be like secrecy. Let's talk in private.
So.
Like he's still gonna, he did try and call her over, but it's still like within earshot of like whoever is around. That's just one thing that like I noticed about that particular thing. And then just touching on the whole thing with the car, I think that, you know, Richard thinks of Rory very similarly to how he views Lorelai still. And so it doesn't matter what Dean was bringing. It doesn't matter if it was a car or anything. He was going to say no, because he still has this fear of like Rory turning out like Lorelai. Not that Lorelai, you know, like he's mentioned a few times about how like, you know, she managed to kind of get her life together and everything else, but he does have that like deep rooted fear that she's got this man who's very similar to Christopher, because those comparisons have been made. And is she going to get pregnant and have to drop out of school and not be able to follow her dreams?
Yeah, good point. I agree with you. He looks at her as a child still. Yeah.
True.
Mary, you have something to respond to on that, I can see.
I was going to build on it, actually. I'm going to build on a couple of things that were already mentioned. One, you know, we talked about, or I think someone mentioned that, you know, this happened 19 years ago and our standards are different. But that actually goes to show how much experience Richard has, that even 19 years ago, he was progressive enough to know that
Totally.
these things are not appropriate, right? So that actually speaks to his experience. But as for the like the obsolete thing, I kind of feel like not just in his work life, in his personal life, Emily and Richard have lived their entire marriage having separate lives. He goes to work and he has no idea what Emily does all day. And so now, after, 30 something years of marriage, all of a sudden he expects that Emily is going to want him to be with her every single second, when for the last 30 something years, that hadn't happened. So just because his situation changed, he doesn't take into account that he's asking his entire family to adapt to his situation, even though they've been doing it for decades this way. So I do kind of feel like the obsolete thing is him bringing on himself. If this was something that he was planning, like at some point you are going to retire. No one lives their whole life, and unless, God forbid something happens too soon, and never retires from their job. What were you planning for the future?
My own life reflects this in a lot of ways, because my stepfather, he's been around since I was a teenager, but he retired 2 years ago. He's in his 70s, and I'm a 36-year-old business and homeowner, and I could probably point out 5 text messages I got today about things I need to get done, when I need to do them, who I need to call and talk to. I'm like, I know, thank you, but he's still trying to stay, on top of everything for everyone else the way that he did back when he was in charge of all of us. And it's become a lot more now that he's free all day, every day.
Tasha, are you going to talk? Or Wendy?
Yeah, I think that we need to remember, I like to remember, my mom just passed away, and what bugged me was that she did that very thing with me. And I'm 53, I raised my daughter, I'm, a good business person. And something at that age, they want to feel needed, and they need to feel needed, and their role, he was a vital part of a business. And it's just like the stories you hear about men when they retire, they get the gold watch and then that's it. And their whole lives are that. And it's not unusual for their purpose to be, in the business world. So then when they're not in that, they're like, I need to feel needed. I need a place, I need something to do. And he's misplacing it. But it's got to be something if it can't be his work anymore.
Definitely true. I was gonna bring up the point that, like, I'm sure, like, Richard grew up in a very, like, I don't want to say like strict, but it was very tense. And by the way we meet Trix, like, you can see that. And there's one particular episode that comes in later that really hones in on sort of that demeanor and spirit that he grew up under. Because I think he gave her...
It's a wasp environment, Regina. Wasp.
Yeah.
I say hornet, but hey.
Environment. And then, like, I'm sure his whole life, like he said, like, oh, I've been so accustomed to being a productive member of society. And so, like, all of this is just coming from the fact that he never actually thought about or prepared for the day that he was actually going to retire. Like, he just put that on the back burner, and when it all came, sort of the culmination of events came, and it came all to it, like, he just didn't know what to do, and so I'd have to agree with like Wendy's point there. I just, oh my God, this episode just makes me feel so bad for Richard.
It's a hard position. It really is.
I understand that to a point, and kind of going off of what I think it was Elle who said it, or someone said it recently. So if I wasn't Elle, I'm sorry. I hate when episodes like this kind of make me flashback to my own childhood, but you guys are going to learn about me one way or another. So, so kind of with what was said about Richard still sees Lorelai as 16, so like that's all he'll see her as, and whatever she wears or acts or says or anything like that, he'll only see or hear it as like, I'm 16, this is the way I'm going to do things, period, type thing, right? Excuse me. So my mother, I love her to death, but she did the same thing and still does the same thing to me, where I graduated when I was 19. I repeated a grade. So I graduated when I was 19 and moved across the country
and I've been out here ever since. And she has a very bad habit of not realizing that I'm not 19 anymore. We haven't spoken in a number of years, but she still has a habit of treating me like I'm 19 and not realizing that I've been on my own. I have my own job. I pay for my own bills. I'm completely self-sufficient to a point. And I think like parents need to realize it, regardless of what age they're at. I think parents need to realize, and especially Richard needs to realize that like Lorelai took a detour. I wouldn't say mistake because no child's a mistake, but made some detours and made her choices at a young age. But she's also built a business, started as a maid, and runs an inn, has her own house, feeds her daughter, and things like that. But he doesn't see that, and that really drives me mental because parents have a tendency of doing that, not realizing that their kid is not a kid anymore and that they're an adult and they can make their own decisions, and the parents can like give their opinion, but to kind of say like, this is wrong, you need to do it this way, is kind of like a rude thing to do, because the way that Richard has done things in his life is a very different era to what things are at this time in 2002. And I think that
Well, I said WASP. So WASP, for those who don't know, is White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It's an upper class.
well, no, I know what it means, but I was just making a joke. Yep. I was making a joke saying Hornet.
I have a quick question for the room. Show of mics. How many of you feel really bad for Richard? How many of you feel like Richard has he's sort of put himself in this position, that this I mean, this is the first time I actually thought about it. That's why I'm asking the question, because actually, Mary, what you said sort of hit me. What, like, you know, this idea that, well, you might have a lot more if you put a little more into your family because they're still here. How many feel like they don't feel bad for him because he's sort of sown all of this?
Neither. I'd say it's somewhere in between.
I kind of started the episode feeling, or not the episode, but, you know, came out of the episode feeling bad for him, like feeling like, wow, you know, we really, like, you know, we don't value experience anymore, and you know, which I believe is true, right? That like that our culture, you know, puts so much value on youth, and especially his generation is feeling it. And I mean, that's terrible, but this idea that like there's more to life than just working and just building things and like in status and all of that, sort of speaks to the same, I guess, the same argument, because it's true. If you put a huge part of yourself into your family, then, you know, when you retire, which is inevitable, as Mary pointed out, these things might not be as big of an issue because you've got something else that's waiting there for you. In fact, some people would actually argue that they worked their whole life really so that they can get to that place where they can just enjoy their time with their family.
That's why some people retire at like 40.
Yeah.
So they can have that time.
But I think that there's another side to that, which is because our society has become so fixated on what you build, you know, what value do you bring to society? A lot of families are left in that place, right? Where there isn't really much of a family there to invest in. Like, I mean, she is building her own life and focused on all that. So what does he have other than his job?
Well, I feel like the reason I feel in between is because Richard is of a generation where the men went to work,
The women basically took care of the families, or their nannies did if they had nannies, whatever they did. But he's just, it's a generational thing in a way for Richard, as opposed to a lot of men that I know these days who do invest a lot more time into their children and stuff. But it's just kind of, I sort of feel bad for Richard, and then I don't feel bad for Richard at the same time, because he doesn't really have a right to do the act the way he did towards Lorelai, but he's stuck in his ways, and he doesn't know how to get unstuck. And I do think in a very small way, for a very limited amount of time in that episode, he kind of was trying to show interest in what Emily was doing, but she didn't want him involved because she's not used to having him around. And that's when I was feeling bad for him.
Go, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately do feel bad for Richard. I can see the point that you can make the argument that he ultimately put himself in this place. And I think he's a product of his upbringing. You know, he was brought up in a well-to-do family. You know, his mom was or is a very successful woman, and you know, is in the high society and in big circles. And you know, there was sorry, my vacuum is emptying. My robot. Her name's Rosie. So you know, like I see the point that like everything can't be about work, but that's just what he knows, because that was instilled in him, and that was his measure of success. You know, if we think back to the episode where he went to the hospital with angina, and like Lorelai had her little breakdown, and you know, and she said like, he's a good man, he is a good father, like he did all of the things that was expected of him, and that, you know, was set out as measures of success for him, right? Like to have a good job and to have a nice home and provide for his family. And so, yes, ultimately it's landed him where he is, but I don't think he really knows anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Very well put.
I mean, I think that to feel bad for him is really, it's about feeling bad that certainly the culture that he grew up in, but I'd say like, you know, a lot of just, you know, our modern society, how much it pushes us and pushes people to be focused on success, career success, and whatnot. And if you're put into that position and that's hammered into you for so long, I think that would be very difficult to let go of in your retirement. I would imagine it would be even difficult, even if you had invested time into your family, you know, to suddenly feel like you don't have the same value to the greater society that you felt that you had, you know, because he says that all the time about, you know, about like being a productive member of society. I mean, that's important to him, you know, and so
I think it's his whole identity.
It is his whole identity. I think it's the identity of a lot of people, not just people that are from that waspy upper class culture.
100%. Like that's how I was raised. Like that I had to do well and I had to be successful, and that means working my butt off and making good money and providing for my family, and to the point where like I feel I have to work 6-7 days a week, because if I'm not, I feel like I'm not meeting that goal. And that's just that identity that has been instilled in me from the day, you know, I started to go to school and to learn.
I feel like
Definitely.
kind of like going off of that, this might just be like, I'm not going to say part of my upbringing, because I feel like no matter what upbringing you have, you kind of build yourself around that, and kind of you are who you make yourself out to be type thing. But to kind of go off of that, and it just might be the personality I am, very like go with the flow, type thing, very much a Pisces that way. But like, I feel like regardless of what kind of upbringing Richard had, like, it's not really, we can't really use his upbringing as kind of an excuse to like the person that he is, because like you can be extremely wealthy and come from a very well-off family and things like that, and still kind of have a lighthearted kind of life and personality and stuff like that, and kind of do things not blasé, but like kind of have that like, okay, like not everything has to be by the book, not everything has to like be super strict, even in that time, because I don't think like an era really has anything to do with like how you live your life type thing. Because I bet in the 50s or 60s there was that whole like blasé, like kind of, yeah, we have a lot of money, but we're not going to use that as like a card in our lives and stuff like that. And so I feel like his upbringing doesn't shouldn't be his excuse to like how he does things. And yeah, kind of going off what like Nikki was saying, or was it John? I'm not sure. Kind of saying like that's all he knew. It's like, yes, but like he has his whole life to like break that cycle and stuff like that. And I think Lorelai's the person that kind of broke that, where it's like, I'm not going to be all about my work and all like that and have my life be super strict. I'm going to have my child do what she wants and go to school wherever she wants and things like that. She's very self-sufficient, very like goal-oriented, Lorelai, but she's also made time for her family and very invested in her family. So I don't think era or upbringing should play a role in this type of thing.
Some of that stuff doesn't.
But I think in you saying that, you're implying that the way that Richard has done it is wrong. And
oh
I
no,
don't
that's
know
not
that
my
we can
intention
say
at all.
that
It's
it's
just like
wrong. It's different, and
oh no,
it's
I'm not saying
different
it's
priorities
wrong.
and different goals. And so if he doesn't see it as wrong, then why would he do it differently?
And it's not just about money either. It's how he. I mean, yes, it's how he was brought up. Yes, he could have changed, but that stuff's ingrained very deeply in a person, especially that kind of upbringing.
Very
deeply.
I
was wrong.
Bring that up, Wendy.
Okay, no one can hear me.
You know what's really interesting about this too? Like when you think about Emily and Richard, right? Both are incredibly active people in the society that they existed. Emily does just as much work as Richard does, right? What's interesting about Lorelai is she somehow does exactly what her dad does and her mom, right? She's this powerhouse at work. And then she also does everything in the community. And I'm intrigued. What I'm really intrigued by is the hardworkingness of all the characters in the show. I feel like we've been talking a lot about like people who decide that their work is what they're living for, that being a productive member of society is what's valuable. I think that everyone in the show is that way. Like I think that this is assumed in this universe. Rory works hard, Gypsy works hard, Luke works hard. I think this show has more independent businesses than any show I've ever seen in my entire life. Right? It's like it's kind of just it's who they are, right? This hardworking culture is so Amy Sherman-Palladino, right?
I feel like I think that it's reflective of society. You know, I mean, I think that you're totally right about that, but I would go even one step further to say like it's sort of a reflection of our modern world. You know, the obsession with, you know, making something of yourself and being a business owner. And I mean, you know, right now there's this like, you know, whole movement, you know, that you know, that's known as the gig economy, right? Like, you know, and then that's being replaced now by some new thing called the passion economy, right? This idea that like everyone can be their own business owner and whatnot, right? And so like society that really like the show really does kind of give you this like microcosm of that whole thing. Society that pushes in that way. And I think the reason why it resonates with me is because I didn't grow up in that kind of a culture at all. But I work in an industry that does value youth and does render people obsolete because of their age. actors see it all the time.
Nicole's
Writers
been
see
trying
it.
for a while. I'm sorry, Nicole's been trying for a while, and I don't think anyone saw her. But continue, John. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
I tried to point it out, but sorry.
Nicole, speak.
Oh, it's okay. I've been enjoying listening to everybody because, like, I mean, I love that everybody has, you know, like, sort of agrees, but then also has, you know, other opinions. But going off of what Tasha was saying about how, just like the era, like my grandma, she was born in the 30s, so she grew up in like the 40s and 50s and stuff. Well, she had like her mom was like not a very nice person. My great grandma was not very nice at all. She was, and her dad was a good, hardworking man, and he provided for the family and stuff and everything. And my grandma was hardworking and became a teacher and stuff. But like my grandma just was like my grandma grew up in a house where like you practically couldn't touch the furniture, you know, almost like plastic covered furniture, and she couldn't really have her friends over because her mom was like whatever. So like once my grandma got married and started having kids, she decided, you know what, this is not, kind of like a Lorelai type thing. Like she's like, this is not how I want to be. This is not how I want my kids to live. So she was completely opposite of her mother and fun, and she doesn't care if everybody sits on the couch. She doesn't care if we throw glitter at, you know, Y2K, and you know, she just like is this amazing fun person, you know. And so I just think that you know, sometimes it can be the era and how someone grew up, but also like I feel and of course this is my opinion because I don't know a lot about like the rich society part of things, but like, you know, it feels like when people who are wealthier live in a wealthier community, they have like, and they're older, like they've come from money, but they also have earned that their whole life. Like the community puts expectations on them. Does that make sense?
Let's not forget that Richard likes his family. He loves his mother. But he bought into that whole lifestyle that he didn't want to break the mold. So.
Exactly. But like just saying, like from what Tasha was saying, how like Lorelai broke away from that, you know, because she didn't want that, like how Richard wanted it, you know, because that would have been expected of her from if she had stayed, you know.
Yeah. But there's a way to have money without acting like you have money.
Yeah, and Lorelai obviously isn't like wealthy, but she still brings from her family the hard work, the go-getting, the, you know, and you know, from her, like whoever said about the parents and stuff, she has that instilled in her still, but she is doing it in the way that she feels like makes her and Rory better. You know, not that her parents are horrible or the worst or whatever, you know, they do how they feel is best. But I also understand how her feeling like her dad coming into her space and not respecting her space, you know, like I understand that because I live with my parents right now because of unforeseen force, and my parents are kind of like that. They treat me like I'm 16 still. Does Lorelai ever step outside of
like, does she ever not respect other people's space?
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Shut them out.
I would say that she's very much like Richard, actually. I just think I just think that this is, that this particular situation and whatnot put Richard in, gave Richard the opportunity to, to show this rather unsavory side of himself. But I've seen it from Lorelai, in response to what she feels entitled to from her daughter and Luke and whatnot.
Well, hey, by the way, welcome, Scott. You look new on the couch.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate it. Actually, I jumped in here because I saw the title of the room and everything, and I just wanted to throw in there. I didn't know this. I've watched a few episodes of Gilmore Girls, but
welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. But no, I was in a room with Dane Cook, and he told me this little tip. The Gilmore Girls, apparently, anytime they were like really staring at their coffee cup or the sugar packets or whatever they put in their coffee, apparently they had lines written on them because they would change the lines coming into the show, and they were always worried about making sure they had the right lines. So anytime in the shows you see them like having their coffee cups or having sugar packets in their hands, there were lines written on them, and I think that's very interesting because it kind of goes back to no matter what life throws at you, always be prepared and have those lines written down, and there's always a solution to whatever your problem is, whether it's your lines or anything else you're going through. Just make sure you have a solution to it. And I never knew that, and always want to be prepared for life. And I thought it was very interesting. And like I said, I just kind of saw the name of the room and didn't know how many people in here knew that, but I just found it very interesting.
Did you do that? So interesting, Scott. How did Dane Cook know that?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
He's an actor.
I mean, because I do have perspective on that. But how did Dane Cook know that?
Apparently, he had worked with somebody on the Gilmore Girls at some point, and she was trying to get him to loosen up a little bit, and was just like, look, like no matter what happens, no matter what they change, going into the show, we've got a solution to it. So if they change your
line.
How
did you get in a room with Dane Cook is my question.
I've been in a few rooms with
Dane Cook's on. Dane Cook's pretty big here on Clubhouse. He does like rooms. He does.
See, I love Dane Cook. That's why I want to.
Yeah, I mean he's here. You can find him.
John, did they ever write stuff down and put them in coffee cups when you were on the show?
Yes.
So let me clarify this. As an actor who was on the show, I can say that sometimes actors are having a hard time remembering their lines. I mean, that just happens, and when that happens, it doesn't happen all the time. So while there is some truth to the idea that there were probably plenty of episodes that you didn't know the actor was actually being given the lines either on cue cards or whatnot, and I'm not going to say who, but I mean, it happens to the best actors, by the way, because there's a lot of lines that you have to remember. I mean, and show the shows are created on a pretty tight schedule. One episode takes 8 days to create. I mean, that's a little over a week, about a week and a half, business days to create. So especially if you're a lead actor on the show, your life is about just like constantly learning lines and remembering lines. And then, aside from just memorizing the lines, you also have to, breathe life into the lines, which is, a completely different part of the equation. So yes, that does happen. That does happen. And then you add, exactly. Then you add to it this whole speed thing that Gilmore Girls had, so it's a really complicated show. So did actors read stuff occasionally off of cue cards or perhaps on a napkin that was in front of them? Yes, that happened. Did that happen all the time? Absolutely not. No. And I would say in the storyline that I was a part of, I never saw it. So I never saw any of the members of the band storyline ever rely on that. but we didn't have that many lines, we weren't like constantly, and we had time. There was like plenty of downtime. George Bell, who I've talked about a lot, he was our dialogue coach. He was just amazing about like, all right, guys, let's get together, let's work. We would just, take an hour out and we would just be rehearsing it and whatnot. So it actually didn't happen that often. So Dane Cook's story is like not completely accurate. It did happen occasionally if an actor just like, for whatever reason, just couldn't, and they're like, we gotta go. But I wouldn't say that it was a common thing. No.
Still interesting to hear about, kind of fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
The sentiment,
folks,
Scott.
I'm gonna actually jump off. I want to say a few things before I go. I've made everybody moderators, so Scott, I'll make you a moderator as well. And by the way, thank you, Scott, for joining us. So we're gonna be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is the episode Tisket a Tasket. Is that the name of the episode?
Yep.
All right. So Tisket a Tasket. What we've all basically said is that we're going to try our best to do something picnic themed. I'm going to actually run to Target before it closes and see if I can't pick up some things that I wanted to sort of have. And we're going to, just sort of picnic it up here in our living rooms, take pictures and post them on Facebook in the Bag Boy versus Bad Boy group. So don't feel pressured if you don't have that. It's not.
If you don't have a basket, you can find like a shirt like
I know,
I'm wearing.
but I don't want people to feel pressured like, oh my gosh, I didn't bring my basket. I'd rather you come to the episode than you not come because you're afraid that like you didn't have your basket ready. Like it's not school.
Definitely.
It's definitely not school. I don't want anybody to feel like that. But that's it's just one of many things that we're gonna do over the course of this run that is just meant for us to have fun. Second thing, want to just didn't mention it, but I should. I am wearing my Bag Boy, what you gonna do shirt, which I got
on Twitter.
Which I got in the mail today, and I actually got it right before I got set up, so I just threw it on. I will take a picture
mine
of
to the
that.
picnic tomorrow.
And for those who don't know, Steph, who's in the third row, designed it. It's based on a little inside joke that we had early on about Dean being called a very, very, very bag boy, and it stuck. So she created this. She created this design that we all really loved and begged for her to put on T-shirts, and so she did, and we got it. So, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow at 7. I thank you all once again for joining me on this watch, and I hope I can see many of you again soon.
Hey, John.
Good night, John.